Dune, a series which all of us should be familiar with by now, and that's majorly due to the new Dune duology and soon trilogy. Thanks to Dennis, I can't pronounce his last name, we have a great batch of movies that finally allow the world to see the Dune universe, which is a hard feat, no doubt. See, Dune is a wacky book. I first read Dune as a 9th grader because my teacher was like, you need to read a 500-page book each marking period, and I, at the ripe bold age of 14, I guess, decided to read a book about space witches and drugs and fucking interplanetary warfare. I also read a bunch of other strange books to her in that class, so I think I got marked as a weird book reader, so yeah. I think the funniest part about the story is how I initially read it, because I was seriously just at Barnes & Noble's and I saw the title Dune, and I was like, wait a minute, I've seen that movie on HBO Max. I should read that. There's a real decision I made one day at Barnes & Noble's. I don't know why. But I'm glad I did, because what a wacky book it is. Before Dune, I had read a lot more straightforward books and was getting into more like young adult books. And I want to emphasize again, I was 14, so yeah. This was the first book where I felt like an adult reading it. It was strange, different, and took so many different interpretations on the future. Frank Herbert made a creation of a world and universe like no one else, and I think that's truly my favorite part about it. It's so astounding. Now, are these books perfect? No. While I think the themes and everything fit well, his world building was very strange. See, I think Frank Herbert got so into this world that even the weirdest things seemed normal to him, and sometimes he didn't want to explain them. Like, spoilers for Dune Messiah, 3, 2, 1. He introduces shapeshifters called face dancers, and it's like, oh yeah, they exist. They train to copy people's faces. What's so confusing? Are you an idiot? Or when they bring Duncan Idaho back and they're like, yep, he was cloned. Deal with it. So while they have an inherent charm, it leads to a lot of confusion between the reader and the story, leading you to have to go back to an appendix, which kind of ruins the fun of this world when you're just reading a dictionary, but whatever. But regardless, I love the series. I've read the first 4 books and will read the final 2 one day. 4 just seemed like a good stopping point. And despite the fact that the story got more and more wacky, the series stayed very good. I honestly think Children of Dune might be my favorite book in the series just because of how weird it is. So you might go, Isaac, why the fuck are you talking about all these books? I thought we were here for this fucking movie. And I just want to say, calm down, man. Jeez. So aggressive. Holy. There are 2 reasons why. Well, 1, I just want to show you guys how much I love the series and to read the books, and I also wanted to prove my knowledge, like I'm not completely media illiterate. And 2, I wanted to establish how wacky these worlds are. I hope my talk of shape-shifting face people has accomplished that. See, the new Dune movies are just perfect for the story. 2 movies between the book's obvious middle point to flesh out and explain this world. On top of that, it's done subtly, and you really feel welcomed into this world. The fact that the casual viewer can watch Frank Herbert's story Dune and find enjoyment rather than confusion is a great feat. I think the new movies do a great job at establishing a serious tone while also still featuring the wackiness that this world had. But we're not talking about the new movies. Let's flash back from now to over 30 years ago, 1984. And David Lynch. See, David Lynch is an interesting guy. Before watching this movie, I had only seen Eraserhead, which is certainly interesting. But that didn't stop it from being a big success at the time, as well as David Lynch's next film, The Elephant Man, which I believe won a bunch of awards and got a bunch of Oscar nominations. So yeah, it was big. So with all that success under his belt, he got the opportunity to do Dune, which honestly, despite my limited knowledge on his filmography, seems like a perfect fit. The weird, dream-like feel I got from Eraserhead would fit perfectly into a Dune world. The Dune world is so weird and surreal, I thought honestly for a minute, man, this is a perfect fit. So going into this movie, I was kind of excited to see his take. Even if it was different from the book, I bet he could cook up something fun. As well, to my understanding, this was David Lynch's first big budget movie, so he had the money to do something really cool. He also wrote the screenplay and had a heavy hand in writing the story. And this could set up a franchise where we could see more fun Dune movies. The 5th book came out the same year this was released, and Frank Herbert had a major hand in helping this movie. Like, the vision was there. So with all that in the pot, a good story, the writer of that story helping out, a good director for that story, and a budget, is Dune 1984 any good? No, it's not. So admittedly, before we go in, some of this movie's flaws definitely stem from behind the scenes stuff, but we'll get into that later. Because before we see why this movie was a giant mess, let's first see the movie itself. The movie the audience saw in 1984. Now I'm not going to cover the whole thing because it's basically the same structure as the book and most of the new movies, but it certainly is different, and I'm mainly going to be pointing out a lot of weird stuff within this movie, because this movie's wacky as hell, don't worry. The movie opens with a big exposition dump from Princess Irulan. Now I'll give the movie credit. We can't cover this like a long-ass book does. We need to give the basic premise to the audience, I get it, but like, it's not even interesting exposition. It's just this lady, who we don't know yet, just weirdly staring at me and saying stuff that is really strange, and also she's like weirdly fading in and out. I don't know why she's doing that. And again, like, I know what's going on, but to audiences in 1984, this was their first impression on this world. It's just interesting. If you want me to spin it in a positive way, I mean, I guess I could say Princess Irulan's texts open a lot of the chapters in the book. So in a way, it's kind of mimicking the opening kind of text of chapters. But that's about the nicest thing I can say for this. It really is just a boring exposition dump. We then get the opening credits with, I'm gonna be honest, some banging ass music. Which, I'm gonna be honest, is one of my compliments for this movie. I think the music fits the tone and is pretty good. Like, I love kind of the epic scale of the music. After jamming out to the credits, we meet the Emperor of the Known Universe, which honestly showcases one of my other favorite parts about this movie, and it's the costumes and sets and practical effects, because oh my goodness. I love the weird sci-fi world Lynch was getting at here with these like weird little hazmat suits, and I love how his like castle looks. It looks like it was built straight into a mountain. It's so ancient and cool looking. And the practical effects, man, look at this. Look at this space navigator. Tell me he doesn't look cool as shit. This is pure 80s movie making, baby. Holy shit. And fun fact I learned while researching for this movie is I'm pretty sure David Lynch popularized this like look of the space navigators, them being like all deformed by the spice, which is again just a super cool look. I love it. As well, Frank Herbert apparently really liked the look. As regarding the scene itself, it's not in the regular story, but I mean it's a pretty good opening for the movie. It sets up the rivalry of the Atreides and the Harkonnens and the danger that Paul is in between this warfare. And the scene ends with the space navigator basically telling the Emperor of the Known Universe that Paul Atreides has to die, which is a really good hook. Like, I was not expecting that. I really hope that line has relevance later, right? It's gonna be relevant, right? It was at this point I was like, maybe this movie will be pretty decent. And I'm gonna be honest, I got pretty excited. But then we meet Paul, and he gives us some more boring exposition. And hell, some of the exposition he's spouting we already know. Like, he mentions that the Atreides and Harkonnens are fighting still. Like, but we already know that. The last scene told us. Paul is played by Kyle MacLachlan, who's like a David Lynch like regular. And when I originally wrote the script, I didn't really know who he was, and I kind of just made fun of his acting. But then I saw this TikTok from his account where he explained his first film experience and his meeting of David Lynch, and I'm pretty sure Dune 1984 was like his first major role. Hey, editing Isaac here. I wanted to rephrase this. Actually, it was like just his first film role ever. Like, he had done some theater before this, but it was like his first film role just ever, which is just like even crazier, which must have just been so much pressure on him. And I do want to say I've watched a little Twin Peaks since I wrote this, and he's really great in that show. He might be my favorite character, and I've heard he's really good in Blue Velvet as well. All that said, this performance kind of sucks ass. Like, he just never gives the epic feeling that Paul has. Paul in the first Dune book is meant to start off as a goofy little kid who's starting to grow up, and he eventually becomes this prophet of the people. And I'm sorry, he just does not give off that confidence and energy that Paul has. But it's not like he's an outlier, sadly. Most of the performances in this movie are definitely not amazing, so I mean, he's just fitting in with the crowd, I guess. But again, no hate to Kyle MacLachlan. He seems like a lovely guy, and again, this is his first major movie role, I'm pretty sure. But we got no time for that, because Paul's entourage walks in, and Gurney Halleck, who's played by Patrick Stewart! Yes, Gurney Halleck in this movie is played by Star Trek's own Patrick Stewart. And I'm not even kidding, he might be giving the only good performance in this movie. Anyway, Gurney challenges Paul to a battle with shields, yada yada, you know what's going on. Paul delivers some more pretty bad lines.
Shield practice. Gurney, we had practice this morning.
But then they get to training and what the fuck? Why do the shields make them blocks? Why do the shields give them robot voices?
Now, guard yourself from truth.
And since they're blocks, I can barely see what's going on. It's so incohesive what's happening. Like, it doesn't feel like I'm watching a choreographed battle. It feels like I'm watching a kid smash two action figures together. And the cherry on top of this goofiness, the shields are like not important at all to this movie. So this whole battle's pretty pointless. Paul is then summoned to talk to his father, and we get some just really weird ADR.
Thank you for joining me, Paul. Sophia Howard has served House Atreides 3 generations.
Now, this is a problem with this movie as a whole. I'm gonna be honest, I think this movie's like 40% ADR. Sometimes it's like really weird dubbing, like in this scene, and sometimes, and I mean a lot of times, it's inner monologue giving exposition dumps, which often this inner monologue ruins a lot of the subtlety of the story, because they just over-explain everything that's happening or what's going on, and it's terrible, but I'll show you how it ruins the story later. Just give me some time. After that, Paul has a dream, and I'm gonna be honest, this scene is not very important, but has such a funny moment in it that I cannot help but talk about it. Paul's dreaming and there's flashes going by, and then this guy pops up and he says,
I will kill you.
Now this is hilarious because we do not know who this guy is yet. He just shows up and says, I will kill you, which is just so funny to me. We later figure out this is Fade. But to the audience, we have never seen this man. He just popped up and made a threat. Maybe it's his delivery or whatever, but I was watching that for the first time and I was just dying laughing. It was so funny. Moving on from that, we see the Bene Gesserit in their outfits, and I'm gonna be so honest. These outfits are so fucking cool. Like, what the hell? Like, why do they look so goddamn cool with those hoods on? Why are the only people who showed up for this movie the freaking costume makers and the set designers? But because this movie tried to be good for too long, the Reverend Mother uses the voice, and it just sounds so fucking stupid. Like, the voice is meant to be authoritative and, you know, mind control you. Why does it sound like they're a bunch of chain smokers? Like, I really don't like it. But we get the iconic box scene, and I'm gonna be honest, yeah, the scene's pretty good in this movie. I think my favorite thing about it is we actually see what Paul perceives he's feeling, which gives a good insight to, like, the pressure of him wanting to pull out, because we literally see, like, his hand melting. Like, we know the pain he's in there. And I just thought that was actually, like, a really good way to, like, connect to the audience and, like, actually showcase us how the box feels. However, I'd have a little nitpick for this scene. See, when Paul's in his hands in the box and he's in pain and yada yada yada, to like calm himself down, he starts reciting the fear is a mind killer speech. And this just bothers me for like the smallest reason, I don't know. Because one, Paul shouldn't know, like, what the fear is a mind killer speech is. That's like a Bene Gesserit speech. That's what they use to calm themselves. I mean, I guess Jessica could have taught it to him, but, like, he's got more important training. Why is this, like, the main thing she'll teach him? But this makes way for my second point in this scene, which is the fact that someone is reciting the fear is a mind killer speech in this scene usually. And it's Jessica. She's reciting it outside to not be fearful for her son, like to calm herself. Oh, she knows her son is going through aggravating pain and could easily die, which helps showcase to us how much Jessica really cares for her son, and that birthing him was not just so she can make the chosen one, the Kwisatz Haderach, but rather because she actually just does care for him. In this movie, Paul finishes putting his hand in the box, and Jessica's just like, oh shit, my kid's alive. Yo, that's sick, bro. Nah, I don't know, maybe I'm a nitpicky bastard, but it just helped me connect to Jessica more. Also, this scene has more of that weird exposition inner monologue dump I was talking about earlier.
Could he be the one? Maybe. But will he be ours to control?
After that, we meet the Harkonnens with, again, just some top-notch art direction. Like, David Lynch had a vision for this world, and it's a shame it just didn't go to a better movie. But in this scene, we meet our main villains, and I'm gonna be honest, this scene is so ridiculous. Like, I kept trying to write ways to describe this scene, and, like, none of them just were that, like, it just didn't capture the insanity of this scene. But actually, I did find a really funny reaction to this scene, and it's my raw notes I was taking while watching the movie for this first time. So here, ladies and gentlemen, is my raw reaction to this scene for the first time. Okay, introducing the Baron. Why is he just ugly? Not scary at all. Dune 2021 really made him seem scary. He seems dumb and gross. Parentheses. But like in a funny way. Unparentheses. And then he starts floating with his balloon suit and starts bleeding black stuff and kills a guy nearby who was just picking flowers, pulls like a pin out of his heart and lets him bleed while he kind of just rubs his face. And that's the best way to sum the scene up. These scenes where, again, we meet our main villains. Moving on from that nonsense, Paul and his family suit up to head to Arrakis with some admittedly cool shots that evoke the weird sense out of space. Like, I really love just kind of like this endless fast space that Lynch had. This is the closest thing we would have gotten to him making a space movie, and I think it's really cool looking. However, Why do the Atreides own a pug? Like, I don't remember them owning a pug, like, ever. I don't think I don't think they ever mention animals in the books. And I'll be honest, the fact that they own a pug is just kind of funny to me. Like, it's so ridiculous, but it's kind of hilarious. Like, this all-powerful guild that almost has control over the known universe has this little pug with them 24/7. Like, I don't know, it's just kind of sweet and funny. Like, Leto, like, literally is trying to take over the universe, and just imagine he shows up with his little fucking dumb snout dog. I can say that because I own a dumb snout dog, and I love him, so I can make fun of their smushy faces. Also, we never see this pug again, so I'm gonna be honest, guys, the Baron probably killed him. Sorry if I burst your bubble, but there's animal death in this movie. Shit. But finally, a decent chunk of the way into the movie, we land on Arrakis. I'll be honest, the palace on Arrakis, it's some more cool ass set design. Like, it's so cool with its winding hallways. Like, it literally looks like it was etched out of a mountain. It's awesome. But also, why do the Atreides soldiers just look like regular US Army soldiers? Like, in this mega sci-fi world where some people are wearing like ultra high hazmat suits, like they're just dressed like 1970s US soldiers. I don't know, it just seemed kind of uncreative for David Lynch. Leto and Paul soon after suit up in some still suits, which kind of look like xenomorph skin weirdly. And we get more of this movie's just ass dialogue. Like in this scene, Leto is like, "Thank you, Dr. Kynes, for these still suits." You know, this kind of implies he understands how still suits work. And I would hope he knows how still suits work because, you know, he's the leader of this planet. I would hope he understands like basic technology here. I mean, you could say still suits are mainly worn by the Fremen, but still, man, you gotta know what they are. You're the leader of this planet. Know, like, the basic technology. But for some reason, he's like, "Thank you for these still suits, but please give a full explanation of what they are and how they work for me." And I know why they're doing this. The audience has to know what this stupid technology is. But, like, it feels so unnatural. And then he goes on, like, a 1-minute exposition dump of how they work. Like, seriously, there wasn't another way to explain to the audience how they work? Maybe you could have done it in that scene with Paul earlier where he was doing exposition on our stuff we already knew. We also get this hilarious moment where Kynes is like, "Hey, Paul, you know how to wear this suit, like, out in the desert. Like, this is how we wear them out in the desert. Who taught you how to put on a suit like that?" And Paul's like, "Oh, no one, I guess. Just seemed like the right way to wear it, you know, like a normal person would react." And this blows Dr. Kynes' mind. Like, he just had a fucking revelation to the point where we get more over-expository ADR.
He shall know your ways as if born to them.
Like, seriously, just because he wears a suit how he thinks is the correct way to wear it, he seriously might be the chosen one that your people have been searching for like hundreds of years? Are you fucking serious, Dr. Kynes? You're supposed to be the smart dude here. However, I kind of like how the Fremen eyes look. Like, I like how they're just like a deep freaking blue. Like, it's just straight jet blue. I kind of like that. I think it looks pretty cool. But whatever, you know the rest of the scene, they take off the Omnithropter, which kind of looks fucking stupid in this movie, but whatever. They take off the Omnithropter and they go check on the spice catchers and introduce them. And again, the spice catchers look dope as shit. As well, obviously, the worm attacks in this scene, and the worm also looks cool as shit. Like, all the practical effects in this movie are so fucking cool looking. I can't. Like, they're awesome. I miss an era where, like, blockbusters had actual practical effects and not, you know, CGI. Maybe I just am a sucker for practical effects. I don't know. But just because there's cool practical effects does not stop this movie from having goofy ass fucking dialogue.
Lest the maker in his water, lest the coming and going of him, may his passing cleanse the world. What's that you're saying?
Okay, you remember earlier I was talking about how the inner monologue of this movie kind of ruins the subtlety? Let's talk about it here. So as you all know, there's a moment in the story that is the hunter-seeker scene, where Paul is attacked by something that will kill him if he moves. So he has to stay very still, otherwise it will come and attack him. See, in the book, it makes sense why there's so much inner monologue in his head, because, well, it's a book. He gets to explain why the thing is scary and what is going on and what it is, because it's a book. I'm not watching anything. And I honestly think the 2021 movie did a great job showing what was going on with no inner monologue. Simply Paul just staying still conveys to us that if he moves, he will most likely die. But in this movie, Paul has to explain what it does, why he has to stay still, what he has to do to stop it, question who's controlling it, explain why he can't call for help, and there's more. There's more after that. It kind of ruined the subtlety when you fucking explain everything that's going on. Instead of having suspenseful silence, it's Paul going, "Man, I wonder who's controlling this thing, and I really gotta know how to stop it." However, there's a shot where the hunter-seeker, like, goes over a blanket and it echoes the sandworms and, like, going over sand, and I like that shot. I think it's pretty cool. Big surprise though, tell me if you didn't see this one coming. the Harkonnens attack. Oh my goodness. And there is a lot going on in this part of the movie, so I'm going to try to condense it as much as I can because it's a little chaotic. Paul gets drugged so he can be kidnapped with Jessica, you know that whole deal. But also the housekeeper, who we knew for like 3 scenes, so I don't really give a shit about this lady, gets drugged. And Leto's walking around, he's like, what's going on in the middle of the night? And he finds her and he just gives this hilarious reaction.
What happened?
Like, he's acting like he's genuinely just curious what's going on about her. Like, he doesn't give a shit that she's, like, literally dying in front of him. He's genuinely like, man, what the fuck is going on? What happened? After that, Dr. Yue paralyzes Leto, and Yue was revealed to be the spy earlier. I just didn't talk about it because it was not that important. Actually, that's a big problem with this movie. A lot of, like, the side characters who do very small things just aren't that interesting. Yue, Kynes, Toofer, fucking Gurney, like, they really don't do anything in this story. And, like, they don't really do too much in the regular story, but they're built up. Like, there's a relationship. But in this movie, we barely know him. Like, I don't fucking know Dr. Yue. But whatever. Yue tells him about the poison tooth, and instead of, you know, Leto going, I don't want to use the poison tooth, he says,
Refuse.
No.
like, when has your friend ever been like, you want to do something, and you simply say, refuse? Like, I get he's poisoned, but he could have just added, like, an I, like, I refuse? Was the extra syllable that hard? But whatever, the house on Attack Atreides is honestly pretty sick. Got some cool practical explosions, and the Sardaukar army looks pretty sweet. Again, costumes, practical effects, up there. And then we see the evil Baron, and he spits on Jessica, which is really weird because that's his daughter. But, you know, whatever, I guess he doesn't know that. But all of a sudden, Duncan Idaho pops up and ignites his shield to try and save Paul. And then he dies. Oh no, Duncan, the character we saw for like 2 scenes, who was so insignificant that I didn't even mention him. And he didn't even get to die, like, giving time for Paul and Jessica to escape, like in the book or the 2021 movie. Like, no, he just dies for no reason. He doesn't get to show how noble he is. He's just dead. But you know the gist from here. Paul and Jessica are sent to the desert. Jessica uses her fucking stupid sounding voice again to take over the Omnithropter, and then they escape into the night, yada yada. But first we get the poison scene, which, like the Harkonnen scene earlier, just has so much shit happening. And again, I'm just gonna give my raw reaction to the scene because I think it's funnier than anything I could write. Okay, break down this poison scene. First, he is not just releasing a gas, he fucking hauls that poison, dude. Then, this dude looks at the camera. He doesn't even look disturbed. He honestly just looks high as shit. Then he finally screams, and then somehow Jessica telepathically knows Leto is dead? Did he send like a fucking space message? And also Paul knows too? What the fuck? How did they sense that? Then the Baron screams about how he's alive. What an interesting movie this is. Also, that Baron comment may be a little out of nowhere to you, but pretty much the Baron survives the poisoning, and then he asks one of his men, he's like, am I alive? And he's like, yeah, yes sir, I think you're alive. And then he just starts floating and screaming how he's alive. I honestly kind of love the Baron. He's so fucking ridiculous. So finally, Paul and Jessica crash into the desert with 1 hour left. For those who don't know, this book and story is split into 2 halves pretty much. And for context, this is where the first 2 hour and 35 minute 2021 movie ended, leaving the 2 hour and 46 minute sequel to adapt the second half. So imagine if all of Dune Part 2 was an hour long, because that's what this movie's gonna try to do. But whatever, we get our payoff for that opening scene when Paul flashes back and realizes that the navigators want to kill him because of the spice? No shit, motherfucker, what the hell? They want to kill me to control the most powerful and lucrative thing in the galaxy? So you remember I said earlier when that scene had like no payoff? So the whole point of that scene was for Paul to lose his entire family, his entire bloodline, just to realize maybe they want to kill me for the spice. Maybe they want to kill me to control more power. Really, Paul? Really? You, the son of one of the most powerful people in the galaxy, might be a target of assassination? I'm sorry, I'm probably more mad at this than anyone is. It's just they were going for something new and it literally meant nothing at all to the story. Like, even audiences at the time, you would think after they saw that their whole house got destroyed and why they destroyed it, that they would understand that they want to kill him for power. You know, like the basic concept of war? I would assume that the audiences have the basic concept of war down. And after that stupid fucking revelation, we get this like really weird page tear transition. They've never used this transition before, like until now. Like this is the first time they're using this transition. What is this why is it it does not fit the tone at all. And they use it like 3 more times in this movie from here on out. It's just so abrupt and random and just not Dune? But whatever, Jessica and Paul suit up and head into the desert, and Paul warns his mom to not walk with rhythm because, you know, it attracts the worm. That's like the most famous thing. But then in the next shot, I don't know, that looks like rhythmatic walking to me. And the worm seems to agree. Maybe if you guys walked without rhythm, it wouldn't chase you. But you know, it's whatever, it's the cool scene, the worm pops up and we see his full body, and I think I have a hot take for this. I honestly think the worm in this movie might be my favorite adaptation of the sandworm. Maybe because I'm a sucker for some sweet practical effects, but something about this look is just so, it's so good. Like, I love how instead of the mouth just being open like in the new movies, it's like tripedal. It's just so cool. I love it. Urgh. But we can't have anything good in this movie because we get this fucking goofy ass scene where Paul falls down like a mountain. Like, it's a whole fucking mountain, man. And it's really funny because, like, he's not invincible. He's just like a hippie on drugs, man. But he like stands up and he's like, man, I'm all good. Like, dude, you just fell down like 100 feet. How are you all right? But no time to question that most likely insane injury because we meet the Fremen. Hey, remember in the 2021 movie when Paul had a duel of Fremen to show he was worthy, and it was a really emotional scene showing how far our protagonist had come? Yeah, so in this movie, Jessica beats up like one Fremen, and he's like, wow, you're a really good fighter. We need really good fighters. You should join and train us with this cool fighting style you did to take down just me. Not any other one else. She didn't fight off like an army. Just me. Which just like undermines the Fremen as a whole. They've lived and trained their whole lives in the desert. They are proud of who they are and their ways. But one lady beats one guy's ass and he's like, yeah man, come join us. And then we get even more rush shit. They like speed run. They're like, all right, your name's Usul, but you'll need to have like a name for among the Fremen people. And then he's like, I want to be named Muad'Dib, even though we don't know what that is in this movie. I'm not kidding you. Paul's iconic name has not been shown, has not been talked about, anything of the sort. He's just like, what's that little mouse thing you guys have running around in this desert? He doesn't even make it clear that it's like a real creature. He kind of makes it sound like it's a metaphor. Like, I would not be surprised if someone walked out of that and they did not know a Muad'Dib was like a real little mouse creature. But this whole movie just has to rush through the whole story now because we only have like 45 minutes left. And I think that's a major problem with the second half. Like, the second half of the story is so important and they're just rushing through it like boom, 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 which honestly kind of makes the movie less enjoyable. Like, I'll give the first half its props. It was honestly more enjoyable because it was ridiculous and stupid and the dialogue was bad, but I mean, they kind of set it up pretty well. Maybe the Harkonnens attacked the Atreides a little early, but for what they did in like an hour and 14 minutes, I thought it was pretty well done. But this second half is where like the inner monologue and everything just quickly speeds up, and it really just feels like we were cutting through to get to the end. Except no, because we get this really weird new scene where the Baron and Fade interrogate Thufir. I'm sorry if I'm saying that name wrong. I have for the entire time I read the book called Thufir, and I think it's not pronounced like that, so don't make fun of me. That one's hard. And you all know him. He's the Atreides Mentat, who's similar to Duncan, and like what I said earlier, has been irrelevant throughout this whole movie. Like, he has not been given any like progression at all. But whatever, he's being tortured for information, and the Baron tells him that he's been poisoned, and the only way to stop it is to milk this cat every day. Which, like, what? This scene, by the way, means nothing to the rest of the movie. It literally is irrelevant and it never comes up again and we never see Thufir again. But like, what is this device the cat is in? Why is it just like a metal box with like a black light taped to it? Why does the cat have a rat taped to its side? David Lynch barely added anything new to this story. And we'll learn later that a bunch of stuff had to be cut from the story, but we had to keep the cat milking scene because it was so important. This scene was genuinely so confusing when I saw it. I literally had to go on Google and double check if maybe I was forgetting something and this was like from the book, because like it seemed just so out of place. And I found this hilarious Reddit post where this dude was curious about the scene and asking why it was in there as well, and the top comment just says the answer is David Lynch, which was just a really funny reply to me. I'm gonna be honest, this scene feels like the most personality he had in making this movie, because it's just kind of wacko nonsense that really doesn't mean anything, but it's kind of endearing. But again, like, why did they keep the scene? Like, well, there's no point to it. I don't know. So now we flash back to the Fremen, and Paul and Shani are suddenly in love, even though they have never spoken privately once in this movie, and we've seen Shani like twice. But nope, they're in love, even though we never saw them falling in love. They're in love, so just accept it. As well, Paul teaches the Fremen to use a gun. I don't even know if this is a las gun. They like use their voice. But also, like, why is there a gun in this movie? Remember why no one really uses las guns? Is because if they ever come in contact with a shield, it will cause a nuclear level explosion. Oh, but I forgot. only Duncan Idaho uses shields in this story, and he died. So we can use guns because no one's gonna use one of the most powerful defense tools ever. That'd be stupid. And a cherry on top of the scene is Paul gives some more unnecessary inner monologue that is just fucking stupid sounding.
My name is a killing word. They are ready to fight, yet in order to lead them, I must conquer the worm, conquer Shai-Hulud.
So to prove himself, like he talked about in the inner monologue, he rides the worm, which honestly is a pretty cool scene. I like it. No one's really having any inner monologue. It looks pretty cool. It's fine. I also like the scene where they blow up the spice harvester because it looks cool. I think the best scenes in this movie are just when action is going on and no one is speaking, because that's when in the movie's at its best. But this is where the 2-year time jump happens, which is in the story. Like, it's in all versions of the story, but it feels so not earned in this movie. Like in the book and the new movie, it really felt like Paul had to get to know the Fremen and become one before the time jump happened. Like he adapted to his ways, and the time jump was just supposed to signify him growing closer off screen, but we could infer he would grow closer with him off screen because of how similar we set him up in the past. This time jump is just some more exposition from Arulon. He was like, Paul ruled over the fucking desert for 2 years and they destroyed a bunch of spice harvesters and they hurt the people's business, so the Emperor of the known universe had to show up and stop him. Like, I get it, we got no time left in the movie, but are we serious? So Paul finally, after 2 years, gets ready to attack the Emperor of the known universe. He pretty much killed his father and he's ready to kill him. And there's this cool action scene and it looks really cool, but it was at this point in the movie where I realized I don't think there's a single person of color in this movie. Like, out of all these ancient fucking civilization people who live in the desert, I think they're all white. And let's wrap this movie up because this is going on a lot longer than I thought it would. Basically, Paul attacks the main people after the Emperor has landed. He starts his attack on the people. And again, the practical effects where they're blowing stuff up look cool. I mean, I just gotta say that. And the set design and everything. And that's the only compliment I have for this movie. Also, I want to point out Paul's eyes are blue now, which I don't think they ever explained that melange makes your eyes blue. Maybe the audience in 1984 would have just thought being a Fremen made your eyes blue. But yes, there is no explained reason to why Paul's eyes are blue now. And then this movie, with no time left, introduces Alia, which I gotta give this movie the balls for introducing another character with like 15 minutes left, especially one as important as Alia. I honestly didn't like that the new movie didn't include Alia because her introduction in this book is so important for the rest of the series because she's pretty much the main character in the third book, and it was easier when you built her up over multiple movies. So I'm gonna give this movie props. Does it make a lot of sense because this movie has so little runtime left? No, but I mean, it's cool for me, I guess. And I'm gonna be honest, she has like a weird voice and a weird look to her with all the special effects, but I think that kind of works in Alia's favor because Alia is like an ugly, weird abomination baby, and that's like her whole point. So her looking weirdly freaky, I kind of like it. But whatever, she's rage baiting the Baron, which honestly, I'm gonna be honest, I love the Baron. He's like the only other dude giving an amazing performance in this movie. He's so comically just like insane. I love it. Is it what Baron Vladimir Harkonnen actually acts like? No, not at all. But I like that he took his own interpretation of the character and he just rolled with it. It fits the tone a lot better of this movie, and I kind of just love it. Hopefully he doesn't get blown up and dies in a really funny way. Okay, final duel time. You know the gist. Paul's like, this empire is mine. But then the Emperor's like, no, it's not, and I will duel you, but I'm not gonna duel you. I'm gonna send this guy to duel you. And then he duels Fade. And this duel's about as goofy as the rest of the movie. I mean, there's nothing more I can say. Like, why do they fight so silly? And why is there no music in this scene? It feels like the most empty fight I've ever seen in my life. It feels more like two brothers fighting over a toy rather than, you know, two professional killers. I don't even think Paul has ever used like a knife in this movie. We've never seen him with like a Chris knife, and he's never done anything. We've seen him use a gun, so we have no reason to believe that Paul is like an expert duelist at all. But whatever, he kills Fade in a pretty gruesome way, like Jesus, man, holy shit. And Paul is crowned Emperor of the known universe. But instead of declaring, you know, like an interplanetary jihad, he instead makes it rain? What? How does he do this? Paul does not have the ability to make it rain. Paul is not a cloud. The movie gives an excuse and says it's because he's the Kwisatz Haderach, but like, no, that's not what that role does. It doesn't make him like a god. This leads me to believe, man, maybe they didn't want a sequel and just wanted to be done by this point. Like, this reeks of just reshoots and being like, all right, fuck this story, I don't care anymore. Or maybe this was like a studio decision, because it feels like so corporate. Like, instead of being like, we're going to kill everyone in the universe who doesn't agree with our role, because that makes Paul look like a bad guy. Paul makes it rain again. After thousands of years, it finally rained on Arrakis again. Like, it just feels so corporate and like, oh, the good guys beat the bad guys at the end of the day. Like, this story is so grounded in its approach. Paul is never phrased as just the concrete good guy, and that's why a lot of people don't like Dune Messiah, because that was the book where it's like, let's make our main character kind of a fucking douchebag. But that's what I've always really appreciated about these stories. They take a more realistic approach. Paul gains all this power and he definitely lets it go to his head. But in this movie, he just makes it rain all of a sudden. Water's finally back on Arrakis. Like, it took Leto II hundreds of years to terraform Arrakis into having water again. But no, Paul can just make it rain. And everyone held hands and they skipped all around Paul because it was a good day again. And finally, the credits roll in this stupid ass fucking movie, and the music is so sappy and it's like fading in and out. It feels just like a soap opera. So what really went wrong with this movie? I mean, I need to establish the fact that this movie has bad traits no matter what. The acting in this movie really isn't that good, and stuff like the special effects just don't look good nowadays. And while you can say, oh man, it was 1984, and I need to say, like, the original Star Wars trilogy was out by this point. Like, Return of the Jedi in this had comparable budgets. And I know you could argue, oh, the most successful versions of Star Wars movies are like the special edition, but like, even if you watch the original edition of those movies, they look a lot better. Now, there's many reasons for that. You know, Star Wars goes after a different aesthetic. I just want to say, like, for this movie's budget, it could do a lot better with its special effects. But I want to look outside those core bad parts. Because while watching this, I couldn't help but escape the feeling that all the exposition dumps and internal monologue just felt so out of place. I mean, David Lynch really doesn't seem like the type of guy to over-explain the world. I think a common criticism with his stuff is that he doesn't explain enough things. And the original Dune story is not this heavy-handed and over-expository, so he wasn't just like adapting the book one-to-one. So naturally, I decided to look into it and see what really happened with this movie. It seems that David Lynch was super hyped to work on Dune. He had turned down other sci-fi works before this, including stuff like Return of the Jedi. I think he thought Star Wars was too bland of a story. But apparently upon reading Dune, he was just mesmerized by the uniqueness of this world. And I think it fully makes sense why he would go after a book like this. Dune is inherently weird and strange, which fits his vibe a lot more. And while I love stuff like the original Star Wars trilogy, I'm willing to admit it's kind of a sanitized view of like space and sci-fi. So he started writing a script for Dune and having all these ideas for like a really cool epic. But sadly, as for most creative works in this world, executives have to exist too. This wasn't going to be a small movie, and David Lynch knew that. So corporate funding was needed, with Universal being the main publisher and the Dino De Laurentiis company being the main producers of the movie. And with all that movie, apparently David Lynch approached them with like a 3-hour epic. I also read some places that the rough cut was like 4 hours, so I think this movie would probably be getting closer to probably like 3.5 hours, 3 hours and 45 minutes, so it was going to be long. A fine length for a major picture nowadays, especially an epic. But this was 1984, so a majorly cut down theatrical cut was made in order to, I believe, get on more screens. Because obviously the shorter your movie is, the more screens it can be showed on in a day. So the fucking producers and everyone went and chopped this shit up into 2 hours and 17 minutes, which I believe was like the maximum runtime they could meet a certain threshold of screens on. And in turn, this knocked out a lot of David Lynch's original story for the movie because, you know, stuff had to just be over-explained and move on. When you have a rough cut that is 4 hours long and you cut it down to 2 hours and 17 minutes, you're going to lose so much content. So reshoots and everything were done, and I assume added alongside it was the over-expository dialogue, because the dialogue kind of reeks of a movie that was meant to be longer than it actually is. And it really sucks that in like a pre-Peter Jackson Lord of the Rings world, he just couldn't make the movie he wanted to. Because I feel like an extra 50 minutes to an hour would have really helped this movie out, like immensely. Especially the second half. The second half of Dune is meant to be the the epic, more important part of the story. And in this movie, it's shorter than the first half. And pretty much the rest of this movie is split so far beyond everything. Like, there have been so many weird kind of versions of this movie. There is something of a director's cut, I believe, that aired on TV. Don't trust me 100% on this one, but this director's cut was nowhere near the beast that David Lynch originally envisioned. And I saw an interview with him where he said that, yeah, it was released in multiple forms, but none of them still are the original envision he had for the movie. He even took an Alan Smithy credit, I believe, on the TV version, which for those who don't know is a pseudonym a lot of directors take when they don't want their name to be established with a movie. Now, fan cuts of all these deleted scenes and TV versions do exist, but sadly, that original rough cut will most likely, if it's not been already, be destroyed. And with David Lynch's unfortunate passing earlier this year, I don't think anyone has the power to get the full cut anymore. I don't think there's a big enough driving force trying to get the full version of this movie. And I know it's kind of sad to say because it's art being lost to history, but I think with the newer Dunes, like, we don't need it 100%. Still, I'm not saying I don't want it at all. I would have loved to see the world Lynch originally wanted. So who knows? Maybe one day the original cut will finally come out. I doubt it, but who knows? I think the saddest thing I learned while researching this was that this movie kind of broke David Lynch's heart, with him sadly admitting in an interview probably shouldn't have done that picture, and in another interview with him admitting that he had no interest in seeing the new version of Dune. A little petty? Yeah, probably. But he was just so invested in that story and had it just ripped away from him. So I don't really blame him for not ever seeing the new version. The major lesson he took out of this movie was don't let someone take the final cut of the movie away from you.
Can I ask you why you consider Dune a disappointment?
Dune, I didn't have final cut on. It's the only film I've made that I didn't have. I didn't technically have final cut.
Do you regret making it?
Yes, except it just nailed this idea, never, ever do a film without final cut.
Even he regards this movie as him selling out, which I don't really believe. He had so much love for a property and just really wanted this movie to be made, and it backfired. What's she gonna do? Greedy executives often aren't the ones to trust. A lesson to be learned for sure in the film industry, because even a movie like Dune, a movie with so much care, passion, and love behind it, was just another victim of greed. And the movie still fucking flopped. So I guess the question to be raised now was that original product going to be any good? Who's to say? I wouldn't even say the version we have now is terrible. Just messy. I wouldn't even call it a boring movie at all. The worst movies are just movies where you gain nothing from it. But as a Dune fan, this mess of a movie was really funny to watch. There was so much just random weird shit going on. All this bad acting and dialogue. It just made me cackle. Well, except by the end where I was kind of hoping the movie wrapped up. But in no way would I say this is a boring movie at all. If you like Dune, I would say watch it if you're in for a wacky movie about a property you already like. Would I ever recommend this to someone who doesn't know the story of Dune at all? No, not in the slightest. It's bad at capturing what makes the story so good, but when you know the story, it's kind of hilarious to watch. It's got its whims to it. It saddens me, though, that Frank Herbert never got to see Lynch's original envision on the big screen, because reportedly he really liked the original way Lynch was going with it, but when he saw the final product, he was quite disappointed. Hello, Editing Isaac here. So now that I'm editing, I have to go back and find all these sources, and I do remember reading this, someone saying that he was disappointed, but now that I go back, I can only really find things saying that he liked it, but he knew it had its flaws. So that's a more readily available version. I don't know. I remember reading that he didn't really like it, but who knows? This movie came out fucking 4 years ago, so I don't know. Sorry, I kind of lied. And it sadly wasn't like other authors where they took their product and messed with it to where they got angry, but I think it just kind of hurt his feelings. He looked like such a sweet old man, and I just can't fucking believe that the executives didn't let him get to see the full vision of his amazing story. And sadly, he died 2 years after this movie's release, so he never got to see his books be adapted into a great movie. He never got to see his little weirdo series become a global icon, and that, to me, is kind of disheartening. It can't have helped, too, that, like I said earlier, the movie bombed. Like, damn, that's just gotta fucking hurt. Not only did the movie not pan out how you wanted, but no one wanted to see it. I just feel so awful. But I hope he knows now that his weirdo little series is loved by millions and actually got an adaptation that was respectful to his work. Rest in peace, Frank. So while this video originally started as dunking on this movie, the more I learned, the more I just felt really bad for everyone, and David Lynch especially. So much passion, so much time, and so much effort just to be taken away by the film industry. It truly sucks. A true visionary he was. His adaptation in its truest form would have been quite interesting. Is that good interesting? Bad interesting? I don't know. But interesting works at the least. Despite this blunder, he still went on to have a very successful career. And this movie actually inspired me to go out and watch a lot more of his stuff. I wanted to see what his vision would look like, truly unaltered. And while writing this, I had only seen Eraserhead. As of voicing this over, I've seen a decent chunk of Twin Peaks, which is just really good. It's got that weird zany style, but it feels so unaltered and I actually really like it. It's interesting what happens when you let an artist actually do their thing. So while the movie itself isn't amazing, I have nothing but respect for David Lynch and the vision he had. And I love seeing those elements shine through. A world so wacky and different from what we can expect nowadays in modern Hollywood. And there's a lot of respect in me for that. If only the full cut could come out, I would have really loved to see that. So all I can say is, rest in peace, David Lynch. You were the true Lisan al-Gaib. The world just was not ready for it.